Good morning from Toronto, where we are live for the start of the 2019 Scotiabank Toronto Waterfront Marathon.
As is the custom, many downtown streets were shut down. Much of Lakeshore Boulevard and parts of Bay and Queen Streets were closed.
It's an elite sporting event with people hoping to be in a pole position for Tokyo 2020 after today.
October 20th, 2019, a perfect day to run a marathon. Nearly 4,000 people from across the world travel to run the Scotiabank Toronto Waterfront Marathon.
I would just say it's worth it for people who want to participate, thousands of people. It's an international event televised around the world that promotes Toronto just like the Raptors in the playoffs, and it raises money for charity. So to me, this is a really good thing.
Some people run just to say they did it. Others are looking for something more.
And we have the Consul General of Japan here because it's a qualifier for the Tokyo Olympics.
Men's and women's champion today, if they get that Olympic standard of 2:11:30, 2:29:30, they'll know they've got the ticket for Tokyo. So a lot of excitement.
Reid Coulsad of Hamilton, Ontario is one of Canada's more experienced marathon runners. At 40 years old, Reid is a two-time Olympian. Since the last time Reid was in the Olympics, things have changed. This time around, Reid has two kids.
Yeah, I mean, before I definitely had a bit more time to myself to stretch and do exercise and stuff like that and make sure I got all the sleep I wanted. And now I just have to pay attention a bit more to that stuff and schedule it, kind of think about it a bit more to make sure I get it in. Whoa!
Although he's already run twice in the Olympics, a third time with his family to watch would mean a lot to Reid.
Louis is 3 and Elodie's almost 1.5. They came to Boston, they went to Toronto last year and Ottawa this year, and they'll be in Toronto again. As long as it's not too far away. And Louis actually done a couple little mini races that they've had at some of the races. The first time Louis came to watch a race, he didn't understand why I didn't stop and like play with him, and he cried as I ran by because I wasn't stopping. But now he cheers. Hey Louis, what do you say when the runners go by? How do you cheer for the runners?
Go, go, go!
Right now we're 10 days out from the race, so the taper's really just begun really today. Like the last 2 days I ran 28K each day. So still a pretty good volume, and today will be a bit shorter, and the 10 days before the race are always a bit less intense. Yeah, like the trails around Hamilton, I go like I run like every day. So I either run Dundas Valley, it's a lot of trails there, or I'll go up the escarpment on the Chinook Trail. My journey to the Olympics kind of started maybe in like 2005 on the track, and I made World Championships. And so from the World Championships, the next step is the Olympics. They're pretty much the same standards and whatnot. The Olympics just being a bigger platform. From 2009 right through 2012, it was just building each year and each year. So it was really consistent. And the 2012 Olympics itself, I succumbed to the heat a little bit and the race didn't quite go as well, but I really wasn't that concerned, knowing that I still had good years ahead of me and that I really didn't feel like I was at my peak for marathoning. This is from Rio. So my parents went to watch the marathon, so that's like the ticket for the marathon finish line. And that is a photo from right before I crossed the line in Rio. I finished 23rd at the 2016 Olympics, and although I was in much better shape for the 2012 Olympics and finished 27th, the 2016 Olympics were a bit more of a disappointment because I wasn't so confident in 2016 that my best years were ahead of me, and that by 2020 I'd be 41, that I would still be on this rise. I kind of felt in 2016, at the age of 37, that those were really the years that I had to like capitalize and do well. But it definitely did motivate me more to try to get back to the Olympics one more time. So that's where I am right now. I'm just over a week out from the Scotiabank Marathon, and I feel pretty good. I feel better than I have in the last couple of years, the last few marathons I've been preparing for, and 2020 is definitely the main motivator and what I'll be thinking about when I start hurting on the course. Race day was it was pretty cool because the weather was absolutely perfect. It was about 8 degrees at the start and almost no wind. You rarely get a day like that in the marathon. Luckily, the pack that I was running with, there was quite a few guys that were motivated to be in that, to run with that pace. Plus some half marathoners off the start. So we had a nice pack moving for 2:13.
Another Canadian runner looking to qualify for the Olympics is Leslie Sexton.
Leslie Sexton is a very experienced runner. We know that she has done high mileage for several years and very successful with that.
In 2017, Leslie was the first Canadian to cross the finish line at the Scotiabank Toronto Waterfront Marathon. A win at this year's race and a spot at the 2020 Summer Olympics would be the ultimate reward for all of her hard work.
Most of my big mileage weeks would be, say, like between 190 and 210K a week. So yeah, the idea is you're going into every session like a little bit tired. You're never starting to work out fresh, and it's just getting used to running on tired legs. And yeah, so it's like for 11 or 12 weeks, yeah, you feel kind of exhausted. You're always riding that line where it's like, okay, I feel tired, but I can do this tough workout. You don't want to go too far over the edge. And then the last 2 weeks are just about like resting up, kind of nailing those last few workouts and start feeling good, yeah. Somewhat of an escape, but yeah, I think of it too as it's also like my Leslie time. I've said that before. It's just like some time to myself, and I've always been like somewhat of an introverted person, and so I don't mind just kind of being off on my own, being in my own head. So I like having that time where I can just just go out and either like push myself in a workout, or if it's an easy run, just kind of enjoy things, like think through some problems or something like that in my head, and yeah, just have that time to myself to be away from it all. I've always considered myself a bit of a geek, and that's just part of who I am. And well, like watching Star Wars as a kid, like well, it was always Luke. Like yeah, I wanted to be a Jedi, and you know, doing the lightsaber moves and that kind of thing. I was like pretty into that. I'm happy that the casts are getting more diverse, like girls can watch it and see Rey and be like, oh, I can be like her and I can be a hero. Yeah, it's just like something I've been into, and like sometimes it will inspire me in my running, like Wonder Woman that came out a few years ago. Like there's still like that scene like where she's running through no man's land, and like that's just super inspiring to me. And I've even like thought in some workouts, like just you know, like visualize Wonder Woman. I'm not thinking about oh, this other athlete who runs really fast. I'm thinking about this superhero, and yeah, that's just what's been inspiring to me, and what I try and draw some strength from sometimes. Over the past little while, I've moved more and more into coaching. It's definitely something I've found I'm really passionate about, like just helping other runners achieve their goals and sharing my love of the sport with other people. That's been a really positive thing, and so that's been kind of my career trajectory over the past few years. For the road group, your workout is 8 to 12 by 2 minutes hard, 1 minute easy, and you can do that just on the path. Effort is at about 5. Yeah, the Olympics are coming up, and yeah, I'd be lying if I wasn't saying like I haven't been thinking about this for the past 3 years. To be able to represent Canada in a major championship like a World Championship or Olympics is definitely a goal of mine. At the same time, I'm trying not to look at it as the be-all and end-all. Again, like some things can be out of my control. If I do the best that I can, but 3 other people are faster, then that's just how it is. I want to achieve that sometime, and not just make a team, but like run well at an Olympics and perform well at a championship. But yeah, at the same time, like I want to have what's a good performance for me at every marathon, and if I do everything I can but don't make a team, I'll be upset, but I'm going to try not to beat myself up about it.
At 2017, she was your Canadian champion at this distance. Last year, she was your runner-up with a PB of 2:31.51. Please welcome Leslie Sexton.
Yeah, pretty much all the training's done. Like I'll go for a run later today and tomorrow morning. But yeah, other than that, it's just like staying off your feet, eating a lot of carbs, so it's a lot of rice and pasta, and doing some mental prep for the race, but also not to try not to think about it too much, so it's not too overwhelming or you don't get too freaked out about it.
One of the most experienced men in Canada at this distance, he is a 2-time Olympian. He is the 3rd fastest Canadian in history with a 2:10.28. Mr. Reed Coolset.
I'm still really just focusing on finishing as high up amongst the Canadians as I can. So some of the stuff that I didn't know before was like, you know, what are the pace groups going to do? What runners are going to go with certain pace groups? And it turns out there's going to be a lot of guys that are aiming for the 2:11.30 auto standard, and I'm not. I'm aiming for 2:13, and I want to run a strong second half of the race, and I just have to prepare that this group up front, they're going to be doing their own thing. I can't control that. And, you know, part of me hopes that they run well because they're good guys and they deserve it. And part of me hopes that, you know, I pick them off and catch them in the second half. So this race will dictate a lot of what I do in next spring. Even Sunday afternoon, I'll probably start thinking, you know, what are the next steps? Right.
Yeah, when the gun goes off, definitely like we're all competing. And this year with the Olympic spot up for grabs, like yeah, everyone's going to be competitive and going for it.
We can see Leslie Sexton here. I think Leslie was going to be a little bit more conservative today, maybe.
It didn't take Leslie long to realize that today wasn't going to be her day.
Nothing in particular, like physically, was wrong. I wasn't hurt or anything like that, and it wasn't really worth, even with the stakes that day, like it wasn't worth wrecking myself to finish in that slow a time.
The chase pack for the Canadian men, and that would have Rory and Dylan Wykes, Thomas Toth, Reed Coulsat, and Tristan Woodfine, and they're on pace for about a 2:13 mid finish, and that's about where I think Reed and Dylan were aiming to finish.
By 15K, maybe we were a tad slow, but nothing that scared me. I was still really happy with the way things were moving by then. But in between 15 and 20K, the pacer, I could see was starting to hurt. A couple times, there'd be guys in the pack, including myself, would say, like, go faster, just so he'd pick it up a little bit. When we got to halfway, we wanted to be 66.30, and we were 66.48. 18 seconds slower in the first half is not really a big deal. It's less than a second per kilometer. By the time we got to 30K, it had kind of been a while since a split had registered, and I was surprised to see a good split. So 20K to 30K was, I think, my fastest 10K of the whole race.
Let's go. Get in there, Reed. Get in there.
Reed ran an impressive stretch between 20 to 30 kilometers, but there's a popular saying in marathoning that the race only begins at 30K.
That's when I knew like things were really starting to slow down, like after 36. Like I said, after 38K, things got really tough. When I hit 40K, I didn't even bother looking at my split because I knew I wasn't on 213 or 214 low pace anymore. By 40K, it was like, I was just trying to run as hard as I could. So it didn't really matter what was on the clock. It wasn't like, I had anything to in me to just, push a little more, or I'm on pace, just, maybe, conserve to the very end or something like that. Like, it was just pure survival mode. And then when I finally saw the clock, it was already 2:15, low. And so, yeah, it was like, okay, not a disaster, but definitely would have much rather have seen 2:4, even when I was dying, see 2:14 something on that for the finishing time. Like, looking back at the race, 20K to 30K was my fastest 10K split, and maybe that didn't need to be my fastest 10K split. I wouldn't have changed it. Like, maybe it would have been best to do that, but no regrets, and I put myself in that same position again. Like, I'm glad I went with that pace, and I'm glad I made the moves I did. I got all my drink bottles. helped out with the pacing as much as I could and stuck in it as long as I could. So the way the race played out, I'm really happy.
Reed missed out on his goal of 2:13, but set the new Canadian Masters record. Trevor Hoffbauer was the first Canadian male to cross the finish line, while Dana Pidereski was the first Canadian female to do so. Both clinched their spot to the Tokyo 2020 Summer Olympics.
Yeah, so I stepped off at about 16K and walked back with my coach to the start to get my bags and everything. And you know, after that, like it was over. So it's definitely not like what I wanted for that day or what I envisioned going in. But looking back, like I was dealing with a lot of life stress. I didn't handle it well, and then I was putting that pressure on myself to run fast and make the team. When you do that, your body can't work right, and the effort feels harder than it should. You start slowing down earlier, and yeah, pretty disappointed that it ended that way when felt ready to go. But if the mind's not ready to go, then it's not going to happen. Yeah, the next steps, I mean, would be a spring marathon. I think if Toronto taught me anything, it's that it's going to be a tough team to qualify for. I have the talent and the fitness to do it. Canadian marathoning is really solid right now, so I could run the race of my life and not make the team, and that's just reality.
Yeah, now that Toronto's done, you know, first things first, got to recover. Training won't really ramp up until 2020. I'd like to be in, you know, a race where, you know, if for some reason the weather's really bad and you know, I'm not going to be able to qualify by time, that there's still a chance to qualify by place. Yeah, to have both opportunities is obviously ideal. So I target a race in 2020 that's going to maximize my opportunities of a shot at the Olympics.
I don't know. I think part of me is trying not to get too invested in if he makes it or not, because like so much of it is out of his control. Like I know no matter what, he's going to bring the best that he can to the plate, but then whatever happens, happens. Like it depends how other people run. It depends how many people place ahead of him on the day, or like what the wind is, what the temperature is. So it's really hard to kind of put value on making it or not, or get invested and excited, because it is such a chance thing and everything has to align for it, which makes it hard. But of course, either way, we're really proud of him, and he's so accomplished, and it's so special to be around him and be a part of it.